is, but it's getting us set up here. All right, we are live. First time using this new platform, so stoked about it. Hey, Jerry.
Hey, Damon. Sir Damon.
Yo, I was just admiring your hat. I was a huge Braves fan for a long time, and now you're just keeping it all the way Braves. So I love it.
All the time, man. All the time, all day.
All right,
But
cool. So
I
we're here. It's Wednesday. It's that time. Go ahead.
oh no, I was just saying, um, I my boss at work, he's a great manager, right? Huge Braves fan. So I don't want to take away from these diehard fans, make it seem like I'm as diehard as they are. I'm not. I really do enjoy the Braves. Took the family to go see them last year. Had a great time. Want to do it again this year. Um, but some of these guys watch, what is it, 150 games, every single game they can. I'm not that diehard, but I do enjoy the Braves.
Well, the Braves, they let you be whatever fan you want to be. I'm pretty sure they're not holding you to,
Yeah.
if you're not season tickets, you're out. Don't worry. All
No,
right,
they're cool.
cool. So why don't we jump in and get started? Let's get rolling. Now, boom, let's do it. Intro, Jerry.
This is the Foxy and Faith podcast with Mr. Foxy himself, Sir Damon of California, and Mr. Faith, Jerry of South Georgia, where we discuss everything from fatherhood, family, faith, fulfillment, and finance, and hopefully tying it all together with a bit of humor and a modicum of civility. Here we are. Here you are. Welcome.
Indeed. So we're here today, and we were just talking a little bit about one topic that we were kind of going to consider for this week. So why don't we jump right into it? And the whole idea is talking about mistakes,
Mm.
right? Like I know as adults, we want to make sure we tell our kids, yo, it's okay to make mistakes, but in your life, business or otherwise. Was there one mistake that you've made that you could, you look back and you said, "Hey, I wish I did this differently. I wish I did this better."
So not necessarily any one particular business transaction that I've had that I've learned a lot of lessons, but here's what I do tell my children, or at the very least, if I could go back as a young person in school, this is what I would have done for myself. I would have started the habits of finding out more information instead of always assuming that I have everything I need to know. For example, I was not a very good student at the school that I went to. And instead of pursuing other avenues of interest that could have benefited me in the long run, I became very frustrated and I dropped out of high school. And
Mm.
you can still go to any school that you want if you drop out of high school and get your GED. Any college that you're willing to pay for will let you in, or any community college. If you pay them, they will take you. So that wasn't a hindrance. But what I wish that I would have done differently is I wish I would have done it earlier. I wish I would have dropped out at 14, or at the least graduated at 14, started college at 14, or trade school at 14, and then been done with all schooling between 16 and 18. Because I wasted a lot of time going to school. The job that I'm in now, the career field I'm in now, you don't have to have any degree. You just have to have some common sense, know what you're doing, be comfortable with a computer. You have to be able to use a calculator and put a couple of sentences together. It's not, what I do is not rocket science by any means, but I wish that I would have done that differently. I wish I would have left school earlier and stopped wasting my time.
Okay, and that's cool. Hey, I'm over here because right now my reception's not that great, but I get it. I hear what you're saying. Like, pretty much overall, you're saying that. How's that? Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah, man, absolutely.
All right, it's a little bit better. So you're saying that, yeah, you would have probably went a little bit earlier into a field or some kind of endeavor that would have been more interesting to you, and you wouldn't have thought like that was it. It was the end all be all for you.
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and I could see that. I could see that kind of like, being a theme for most people, right? Like when, when you're older, you have the benefit of looking back, and they say hindsight's 20/20. But
Right.
the magic that I think is like when you get older, you just want to help your kids make the adjustment a lot faster, right? And
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, so
I
that's really
don't
cool.
want to see I don't want to see my kids wasting their time. And this stupid, I say stupid, it's this in between thing, right? This being unsure and waffling. And I waffled for years.
Yeah,
That was a waste of time. School is not,
yeah,
I'm not school or education is always, I educate myself every day, as a
for
lot
sure.
of people do. So education is not a waste of time. School is not a waste of time. I was wasting my time waffling on whether or not I should be there. So I was always kind of half in, half out, and you're just going to get half results.
Yeah,
That's all I know.
100%.
School is
Yeah.
not a bad thing.
So I'm gonna say formal education. I'm gonna go out to the far right or left or whatever. I think formal education is kind of like obsolete, and I started to feel that way when I was in high school. I enjoyed going to certain classes, and the rest of it I was just like, this is not necessary. However, there was
It's
no
filled.
other outlet. I couldn't do anything. I worked after school. I played sports, and that was my only access. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had anything to do. And I think, and it's my opinion, but I believe that modern school is over. Like
Mhm.
school, the way that we used to, like school, the school system is over. Why? Because there's way more information available than there was before. Okay,
True.
let's keep it real. We had, if you wanted to get access to higher education, right, you had to go to college because that's where they were teaching the higher ed, the higher skills or the higher theories and things that were upcoming. You had to go to college to get access to that. You had to be around those people. Now, to a certain degree, that's still happening, but for a lot of other stuff, not so much.
Mhm.
You can learn how to code by going to a class here. You can go on YouTube and someone will teach you how to do that. So I think I think in the modern day it's an antiquated system, and it's becoming that much more every single day, in my opinion. Now, yeah, is there something that we're gonna miss? Sure, but kids don't really have, from what I gather, kids don't really have the social freedom that we used to have, even like a little while ago. So it's like, then what are you missing out on? Go socialize with your brother and your sister or the kids in your neighborhood and people that, believe what you believe. That's what I think.
Mhm. 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 Yeah, and there's not to put anybody down, because every parent has to make that decision for themselves and for their children about what
Sure.
path they're going to. So I don't want to be hyperly critical of anybody. But for us, my wife and I, we neither one of us had a good experience with our public education. Just call it what it is. It's a free government education, and ah, we didn't want that for our children, and we don't want that for our children. And
Sure.
whether it's homeschool or school or some other route. Fun fact: when I worked at Vans shoe store when I was like 19, which was a cool job, by the way, and it was just a little
Vans, like
retail
the
outlet.
sneaker place? The sneakers?
It's,
Really? Okay.
yeah, man.
Fun fact,
Yeah,
Jerry used to rock Vans.
yeah.
Okay.
When I worked there, this lady came one time with like a Winnebago. It's like a little Winnebago, and she had, I want to say, 4 kids, maybe 6 kids. There's a lot of kids, and they all pile out of this Winnebago, and they come inside the store, and they're all like, "Mom, can I get this? Can I get that?" Like, yeah, you can get that one, and let's try these on and all this stuff, and they were all happy. The kids were happy. She was happy. And I was like, "Oh, so what's your guys' deal? Where are you guys from?" And I forgot exactly where she was from, but this was their education. She said, "This is what they do for their education. They get in this Winnebago as a family and they travel the United States and they visit all of the historical sites in every state. Anything with like a historical significance, that's what they do." And I just thought to myself, like, oh man, if I could do that.
Yeah.
Just
How cool would
and
that be?
how cultured are those kids? How
Yeah.
experienced are, what kind of people do those guys meet like on a daily basis, right? How well rounded they're going to have a view of the world, of themselves, what they're not going to be afraid to leave the nest because they've seen everything outside the nest, you know. Just the advantage that they're being given in that scenario, I thought was just absolutely brilliant. And I know not everybody can do that. We can't do that right now, but we're blessed that where we're at and what we're doing. But I just don't. I hope, my hope is that with all this insanity that has been going on in our country these last like 5 years or so, you remember when it started? It was before COVID. They started in with this the bathroom thing, like nobody knows what to use
The
it.
bathroom thing is a real thing. It is, yeah.
Yeah, oh, absolutely, absolutely. But like, if you go to, everybody could have just been sensible about it, right? Like at Publix, you've got a men's bathroom, a women's bathroom, and then you've got a family bathroom, right? That's moms and dads and little kids can go in there, babies can go in there, and it's not an issue, but it's a private one seater, you know. And instead of even making a big deal about it, just have one. Have one for somebody who's confused. Have one for somebody who's got an issue or whatever, and just leave it alone. And if somebody, anyways, I'm sorry. Here I am. I just once when our child was coming into the world, I was like, I'm not going to put my kid there where, and it's not that I have to shelter them from everything so that they can't be exposed to stuff. No, I am my kid's filter. The things that they are exposed to, it's my responsibility to explain to them what is and what isn't, what's right, what's wrong, what's good for them, bad for
For
them.
sure.
I
For sure.
trust to do that for my kids. That's my job. And so subjecting them to public school, state run, state funded ideology 40 hours a week was just not an option. Just not an option, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, I would agree in that, since I asked the question, I would think that the biggest mistake I made in the beginning, just I guess the biggest regret I have is probably um, just not trusting. I guess trusting my intuition, and I know I was getting discouraged by kind of like what everybody else was doing or what other people were doing, and I would help that. I would use that to discourage myself. So I was the only one that started a business, early on, and I felt like, oh, I was making a big mistake. Everybody said, yeah, you were crazy for doing that, right? Instead of just jumping in and just going at it and not really focusing on what everybody else was saying, I kind of let that kind of feed the fear a little bit, and I think also just not figuring out how to manage like the fear, because it's a real thing. Like I didn't know how to manage that early on. I wanted it. I was kind of willing to take the risk, but I don't know if I could manage the fear the way that I do now. And I wish I did a better job of that.
so are you saying that you're saying that when you started your business early on, you wish that you could go back and you would have done that more aggressively, more confidently? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, yeah. I would have definitely invested. Like I would have gotten a mentor sooner. I would have invested in like just the process and understanding it. And I probably, quite honestly, I don't think I would have quit my job either. I talked about that recently. I don't think I would have quit my job. I don't think that's a prerequisite for success. I really don't. Like not having a job. I don't think that's kind of like a thing that people say, kind of like for like like burn the boats hustler thing. But I don't think people need to do that. I think like, sometimes, if you have the ability, it's good to have steady income and then build something that's sustainable and then replace that with the other thing. And it sounds practical, but I didn't do that, and yeah, I made it, but it's like I struggled a lot. And I think that was just my path to take. So I could have these cool stories to say how bad it was in the beginning. But I feel like for a lot of people, they're not doing this. Like if you start a business, you're not starting a business so you can say, oh man, I had this rags to rich story. You're doing it because you want to provide something more for your family, right? And I think, yeah, I probably would have did it different that way. I would have did it differently, for sure.
So let me ask you this. Um,
Sure.
so what was it? Okay, so help me to understand this, because I'm not somebody, I don't the I don't have that kind of confidence to charge into a business. In the
Mm,
past, I have had great things that, you know, kind of blew up in my face, and so I have a very strong uh, resistance to being gung ho in almost anything. So back, if you're saying that, and I'm asking, I don't want to speak for you. I'm asking,
sure.
are you saying that you already kind of like knew what you were wanting to do, and you had the confidence to do it, but you had to listen to somebody else, and that held you back? Or you were you had, you did you have your mind set on anything? Where did that confidence come in, that you could just charge and do it if you would do it all over again?
Okay. Yeah. So I think for me, I think I knew what I wanted to do. I just didn't have it honed in. I knew I wanted to have a business. I knew I wanted to kind of be in real estate. And as I got into those things, I kind of, I started to figure out as I went along. But what I'm saying is, in the beginning, when I got started, it was more about just like, okay, now I have this thing. Holy crap! What do I do? Right? Like I got this business. What do I do to grow it? How do I do this stuff? I never did this before. How am I gonna make this happen? How am I gonna pay my bills? I just quit my job. Like stuff like that was some of the stuff that if I had to do it all over again, I probably would not have done in hindsight, because what quitting my job did is it put a lot of pressure on me to immediately like figure out how to do that business. And it really caused me to be like, well, yeah, I'm not getting this business right away. And plus, I'm not making money. So now I'm in panic mode. And it was like, how do I turn this thing on? How do I turn this thing on? And that was hard. That was really, really hard, you know. And I probably wouldn't have did that. What I would have done is kept the job. Yeah, maybe I wouldn't have worked as hard, which you do in a job, right? Sometimes, and I would have probably dialed it back a little bit, worked my regular job, and then on my back end, I would have worked, to build my other job after work, my other business, until I could build it up to the point where I could get a decent amount of income coming in. Then I would have been like, all right, kiss my butt, guys. I got this thing going on. That's what I would have done.
Yeah,
Yeah. I don't know why I
and
have to
that's
tell them to
smart.
kiss my
That is
butt,
smart.
but
There have been
yeah.
times where I I know what you meant. You're burning the bridge. You're burning the boat, so you don't have to go back, right?
Yeah. 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 And that was the thing, in
Yeah.
being, I guess, being younger and being like eager. I felt like for me, and I wonder if this is true for a lot of people too. They think like, okay, it's going to motivate me to do it even more, right? Like if I burn the bridge, then there's no going back. What I found is, yeah, there's no going back, but
Right.
I'd be damned if you don't look back at that shore and be like, friggin', I just burned the bridge. You know what I mean? Are there any more boats over here or any more bridges? You know? That's what I would be. I would sit there with no money in my bank account,
Mhm.
like, geez,
Yeah.
man, like, these guys are calling me again. Like, whoa, can I get a lifeline here? And I don't know. I just don't think I would have done it. So what I tell my son now is like he's
Sure.
he's almost 18, and I tell him, I said, look, man, like you want to be on the world tour, and you have a really great opportunity to do that. Most surfers, they don't really earn a very good living. They just don't. Like, it's a lot of travel. There's not a ton of money in it, like endorsements and basketball and so on, compared to the other major sports. So it's just not there yet. So I said, look, if you're going to have a way to take care of yourself and get around to these places. So I'm like, just go ahead and freaking get a business going now. So that way you can have that. And I think that's kind of what I'm thinking, because like if you're on tour So we ask you, you're on tour, you're depending on your parents or some sponsor or someone like that. You're always going to feel like you're beholden to them, right? Like you're always, you got a job, and now you can't do anything. And that's where I think people get in trouble. Like income is not that hard to get. It's just you just have to get it going first. You can make income a lot of different ways, not just real estate. People are doing tons of different businesses because there's people that want services. It's just which one can you spend time and then learn how to do and then keep building from there? That's the question.
Absolutely. And there was one fun fact. One of the couples that I've married that I've performed their ceremony, they actually had a kiddie pool, and the thing was outside. Kiddie pool that had the big wooden ships in the pool, and part of the ceremony, they lit on fire, just like Cortez, because they said, "We're never going back. Like, this is it. We're getting married. We're staying married. We're burning these boats. There's no way to go back. There's only a way forward." I thought that was really cool. But the first church that I pastored, I had a full-time salary, but I had never had a full-time pastorate job. So I had a lot of free time to manage, and I had no idea how to do it because I'd never been in that situation before.
Right.
And looking back, that was a cause. The free time was a cause for me of a lot of anxiety because I couldn't relax. I couldn't just read the Bible and maybe call the members every once in a while, or go visit here, be satisfied with that. I had so much energy. Looking back, this is what I've done, is basically what you're saying. I would have gotten a job at Starbucks. I would have bagged groceries. I would have done some kind of part-time to keep a routine. And then the time that I had left over would be kind of my crunch times. Like, okay. And without all that stuff, without a routine, like a steady job, even if it was a part-time, all of my time, it was just like this giant mountain. And instead of it being a blessing, it was a curse on me.
Of course.
Because I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to manage. I didn't really know what to do with the time. I couldn't fill it because the church was so small. And I didn't, there's just so much I didn't know. And so I was paralyzed in the analysis paralysis, as they say, because I was exhausted from constantly trying to make something move or something move.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because it was very similar. When I was kind of getting going, I remember just sitting in my house at the time, and I had bought a house. I had quit a job, tried to start real estate investing, and I bought my two-family house, my first house, at the same time. So I was sitting in my house, and I had my tenants downstairs, and I'll never forget this. I got these tenants off of a Craigslist of all places, right? Just because I was like in a pinch and I wanted to get some money coming in. So this lady, they sent me this. They sung this sob story that they were, they had bad landlords and they would just really need to get out. Well, sure enough, they came up with a deposit, and then after that, it was me chasing them every month for the rent. And because I wasn't making any income, right? What happened is they stopped paying the rent and I didn't have any money. So I stopped paying the mortgage on top of that. And then before you know it, 1 month went into 2 months came back a little bit behind. I didn't have any money 1 month. So I used the rent money to pay for growth, like before you know it, I was behind like 6 months, and I'm just like, and then, I'm just like, I forget it. I'm like, I can't dig myself out of this thing. I was like, well, what am I going to do? And that's the kind of stuff that I think, it's hard to, and I know I asked the question, but would I do it all over again? Probably, right? Because that's kind of the path that got me here, right? However, if there was somebody that is just starting out, I would probably advise them to, number one, if you want to get into anything new, it doesn't just have to be a real estate business. Any new endeavor, first and foremost, like don't quit your day job, right? Like stick with that, unless it's like, you're fired or it's horrible. And then two, start with something that you can get, you feel like you have an affinity for, and connect with someone. Do whatever the heck you can to connect with someone that can educate you in that space and help you along. Because the faster you do that, the faster you're going to make progress. That's what everybody wants to make. They want to make progress, but they don't know how to do stuff, right? How are you going to make progress? It's like, if someone gave you a drill, it's like, hey, Jerry, go build that. Sure, you could watch a couple YouTube videos and get really good at building something. You could build a table, but how nice is the table going to be, right? Even if you're really good, even if you're pretty handy, and you're probably not going to be able to build tables, but you get a good table guy. He says, look, do it like this. And you watch him or her do it a couple of times, like, you'll figure it out way faster and make less mistakes. And that's the thing that I would like a do-over on if I could.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Giving me
Cool.
something to, it actually kind of confirms something I've been thinking about.
There you go. There you go. What is it, Jerry? What are you doing next? Tell the people. What are you up to?
Well, so one of my, it's not even a hustle because I'm not hustling. One of my other stream income is pressure washing. And there is a man locally that I do know through a mutual friend through church. And I've talked to the guy on the phone, great guy. He was just a very kind and just offering me information that was very valuable and useful, ideas on pricing, how to do this. Here's somebody can go talk all this stuff. And I need to work with this guy. Just say, hey, man, I'm going to work with you on some of your jobs for free. Don't pay me anything. I'm just here to learn. And I just want to see what you do, like in this scenario, and how much this costs, or I just let me just see it. Even though I've been studying this stuff, I can do it on my own, but I don't have, like you're talking about. Yes, I can go wash a house. I can do that, but the guy that's been doing it for years, full time, he's going to do a good job. He's going to grow. He's going to have insight. He's going to know tips and tricks that I'm not going to know. And he's going to know more about what to avoid to cost himself pain and time and money. Whereas I am just hoping that I don't cost myself pain, time, and money where it's not necessary. And so that's just kind of what you're saying, just kind of confirmation for me. It's like, yeah, you know what? I'm going to go work with this a couple of Saturdays or a couple of evenings or something like that, and just get that confidence, so that when I do go up and knock on somebody's door or call somebody, say, hey, I'd like to have the opportunity to pressure wash your house, or let me do your sidewalks in your driveway. Then I know it's like, yeah, I've seen a pro do it. I've done it with a pro. I can do this without being myself. One of the things about, like, what you're talking about, like with the business, when you've got all this pressure on yourself to perform, I'm sorry?
No, I said great.
When you get all this pressure on yourself to perform and you don't, okay. That pressure can create trauma. The mental anguish and the emotional war that rages inside of your being when you're frustrated with something as important as providing for your family. It's better to have this other plan that is going to help you, instead of being gurus. They work with both feet, and it doesn't cost them anything for you to go through mental anguish and all that stuff. And maybe there is, but not always. And for me, somebody like me that's sensitive, I'm a sensitive person, that was actually kind of harmful to my health a little bit, and I was so green at the I was doing back in those, I was talking about when I first started. At that same time, I was also trying to learn a little bit about real estate. And I wasn't working with you at that time. And I was working with other people that had no problem taking advantage of me. That created a pain point for me, so that instead of looking at real estate or working with other investors as a positive experience, it was absolutely like, no, I'm good. I've had my fun with that. I've had my fill of that. And then you and I work together, and that's not a pain. That's a good point.
Yeah, it was for me too, man. You know that it was always great. You know, that's why we're working together now and we have a friendship. But like, it brings me to the next question. I guess when I'm thinking about, it's like, okay, well, what makes someone a good mentor, right? What would make someone like a worthy mentor, someone you could go after? First thing I would say is like, all right, well, just know there's different levels to mentorship, right? You might start with someone like low tier just to kind of get going, because you might want to have this person that's up here at the highest level, but you don't have access. Maybe you don't have the money, you don't have the network, maybe you don't have the audience with that person. You're not going to get, Grant Cardone to come work with you and talk about syndications. You're just not starting out, right? So maybe you just start with what you do. You start with a low level person. But here's the one thing that I think people I've seen so many times, and this is me being in the position of the ability to mentor. I've had people come to me and say, "Oh, okay, yeah, I would love to kind of work with you." And then number one, they're not willing to contribute anything financially. And number two, what I see is that some people, they don't want to commit to anything, to do like the dirty work. And I feel like that's an easy way to get in with a mentor. If I ever had someone come to me and it's like, "Hey man, like what's the biggest challenge you have in your business right now?" And I just told them, like, "Hey, I'm really struggling with somebody that can just make sure that, yeah, right now it's like just having someone that could kind of just be like my admin." I just had an admin. Well, I have an admin, but she's not super active anymore. Like she's in school. So like I'm in the process of between getting a new admin or whatever. Someone came and was like, "Hey, I'd be your admin for you. What do you need?" And then, and I'll just work for you. Don't pay me anything. I'll just come and I'll work and I'll do whatever. Like, I think coming and doing it that way is a way more valuable way of doing things than just coming to somebody and saying, "Hey, teach me." Because when you give somebody money, like I've done this too. Like when I take money from people, now all of a sudden I work for you, where I'm the mentor. I'm the one that works for you to tell you like, "Hey, don't do that." And when you do it anyway, I'm responsible because you paid me. You know what I mean? Like that happens all the time. Like people feel like they're paying you, so now they don't have to take the effort. They need you to give them a boost. And I can understand why, because you paid your money for service, but the service is mentorship, not what do you call it? Being your boss. That's different. You get what I'm saying? So I feel like that would be I would love to have. I think that's good advice for anyone that's looking for a mentor. Like, okay, look at somebody that has what you want, and then go out there and say, "Hey," just like you did with the Power Wash guy. "I just want to work for you for free." And it gives you two things. It sounds like it gives you a chance to look at their business and say, like, "Yo, do I even want to do this? This might be stupid, right? I don't want to do power washing. I hate it, right?" And then two, it also gives you a chance to learn from them what actually works and what doesn't work, so you can get into the business. And it also gives you their trust. So it's three things. They give you their trust, so now they can want to work with you because you help them with a problem. Everybody got a problem. Everybody. Doesn't matter who they are. Everybody got a problem in their business. That's what I think.
Mhm. And part of it too, I've never, I've always, and it's just my personality, I guess, but I've always felt like if I'm going to do something, I have to do everything. Like if somebody has a problem, let's say somebody pays me to wash their carport. Well, I see dirt on the side of the house, like I better get that while I'm at it too. but that's not reality. That's just the way that I am. That's the way I process things, but that's not reality. And dollars and cents are just the fair market math. It's the math formula. You're paying me to do this, not everything. You're paying me to fix this problem, not to carry the weight of the problems that you have in your life on my shoulders, right?
Right.
And it's a very fair and very honest trade, right? I will give you cash if you do this. So with that, working with somebody else, like you were saying, I might say, hey, you know what? I want to do roofs with this guy. I don't want to wash roofs. I just want to do sidewalks and fences. Or hey, I figured out I only want to do concrete. I don't want to touch a house. I don't want to touch a vehicle. And like with businesses, from what I understand, depending on what your model is, you don't have to do everything. If your business and is that you can pick and choose what you want to do. It's your life. It's your money. It's your time.
Yep.
And that's a very freeing feeling. If somebody says, hey, Barry, why don't you go over here and wash my house? I'm going to say, no, thank you. But I appreciate you offering. I'll be happy to do your sidewalks, but that's it. And if you don't want to pay me for that, that's fine. I can recommend you other people that can do it. But that's, I affinity for getting into situations that tie me down unnecessarily. And I think because I'm 40 now, I think I should learn that lesson and stop doing that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the first step is awareness a little bit, right? Like being aware of it, right? Now that you see it, now you can be like, okay. But it's not like it's outside of your realm of being able to do it. It's just, when you're starting out with something that's a challenge, it's easy for someone to look at, say, okay, just do this, right? Just do this. But a lot of what we do is not so much based off of what we know. It's more off of like something that we believe, and it's subconscious. The things that we do, right? It's subconscious. And the way that you really affect your subconscious is it's a whole nother thing. But you have to work on that stuff first to get over those actions. You can't do a lot of things just saying, like, it's not willpower, like like, oh, I'm not going to do that. There has to be some motivation. There has to be something that you program into your head to get you to do those things, to change. That's why people go to the gym every beginning of the year and they don't lose any weight. It's just they don't build that program. So I think, man, for what you're saying, I know you could certainly do it. I think you're on your way from what it sounds like. But just know, it's like anything you want to do, you can create it 100%. 100%. And faith, I think, plays a huge part in that, because what the faith does is it aligns you with your most powerful partner, which is the creator, right? And then, God helps you to create all those other things that you might feel like, okay, maybe it's beyond me. Okay, faith will come and help you to get there, but it's definitely doable, 100%.
That's right. Right. And there was a time when I had this job waiting tables, because this is where I was life, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I was single. I could barely afford to live on what I was making, living by myself. And I remember there was a lady that I worked with, and she was just very, very, very negative all the time. Just everything all the time, just negative, negative, negative. And I don't want to take away from her experiences in her life. She could have easily had a much harder life than myself. I get that.
Sure.
But at this time, I'm like 26 years old, and not great. I'd made a lot of financial mistakes and just gaffes. Anyways, but she said something to the effect of, faith doesn't pay the bills. And I thought about that for a second. It's like, you're right. I mean, I can't go to the bill collector and say, here's some of my faith, take this. But it was faith that got me through that narrow pass, without much more difficulty or harm to myself or having a destructive, careless attitude, which is what I'd had before. And made me faith made me an excellent employee. Faith, and I'm not bragging on myself, but faith made me do that job the very best that I could possibly do. And after I left and I took another job somewhere back to one of my workers, he came up to me and he said, "Man, I've missed you." He says, "This whole place changed when you left." He says, "It's gone downhill." And I was like, "Oh man, that stinks." And I was like, why would it have done that? Like, it's a restaurant, it's not. But it was honestly, and take it how you will, but it was my faith that made me take up responsibility and to treat people the way that they would be treated, or the way that I would want to be treated if I were them. And I held myself and my teammates to a high standard, and that was because of my faith. Because I'm not that good of a person. I am, if you strip me of my faith, I am a lazy bum and selfish. But with God in my being, I care about others and I care about God, and everything that I do really does speak volumes of my faith. So if I'm slack, I'm not a faith person, am I? And I'm not saying that I'm perfect. That's not what this is, but faith absolutely does play a role in everything we do. Everything.
100%. 100%.
Work hard.
And,
Lord.
Go ahead. What did you say?
I just said it's a Bible verse that says, "Work heartily with all your heart as if you were working for God."
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm not familiar with the verse, but 100%, I think that's who we are working for. And I think the closer that you can get to that, the more fulfilled you are. Because I've never been more happier than hearing from a customer that, wow, you really made my day. And it was more than just the transaction. Anything I ever did, working in restaurants, anything. When you have that person that says, "Man, I really appreciate the job that you did," it's never about what you're selling. It's about what you did for that person. And if you strip all this stuff away, if you strip away all the different names of the businesses, the differentiations in the product, all that, at the end of the day, it's people finding out a way to deliver a service or product to people to help their lives seemingly be better, right? And you can't expect me to believe that it's anything more than just God, kind of manifesting His will on the rest of us. It's just in a form that we don't break it down and acknowledge, right? I think we all got to be real. Like all this stuff doesn't really matter. It doesn't. It doesn't matter that much. Like that we've all had cars and got rid of cars, TVs, toys. Those things come and go. But I know you can think of if I had a little bit more time with that person or that relationship, it means something, and that's the magic. So you're definitely 100% right as usual. Wow. It's like going to church with you, Jerry, every single Sunday. I mean, every single Wednesday. See, it even feels like a Sunday.
Well, I enjoy these conversations, my friend. I'm enjoying this very much.
Yeah, I am too. So you're welcome.
Appreciate you inviting me onto your car.
Well, this is not mine, right? This is ours, right? This is our, I may have what's it called, opened the door, but this is now our opportunity here to share what it is that God wants us to deliver. That's why it's Foxy and Faith, right? So and they're interchangeable. But here's the thing: what I would say. I want to post a challenge to you and I right here on this podcast, and for anybody that's ultimately going to watch. We want to have a guest next week because I think we got to open it up to guests. Like we're great, but we got to get some people talking about their faith, their their experience, their relationship to growth. So to God. So I think we got to get some of that going. What do you think?
Nice. I can't wait.
Awesome. All right. So look, we're going to talk offline. I'd like to kind of wrap it for this week. So I'm going to say, Jerry, if you would take us out, but next week we're going to have a guest ready for you guys. So just be ready. Same time, same place, Wednesday, 9 p.m. And we're going to have a live guest here for you to enjoy. It's going to be fantastic. And we're going to have that person on here, same channels.
Nice.
Take us home, Jerry.
All right. Dear God, we just thank you for another day. And we thank you, God, for this time that we get to have this conversation about life and faith and providing families and being a blessing all around us. We just pray, God, order salvation on all of our friends, family, our working partners. Lord, that we just pray, God, for your leadership and God, your wisdom and all that we do, so that we can be a light in this world and be a blessing to those we do business with. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. We love you. All right, to everybody else, you know what to do. I'm gonna keep it Foxy, and then with Jerry, he's gonna ask you to also keep it faithful. Till the next one, guys. Ciao for now.